It is now 25 minutes after 7, time for us to get to the political point, and joining me to have that discussion, I'll start with the introduction from my far left. We have Honorable Kipruto Arap Kirwa, the Deputy Party Leader for ANC. Good morning and thank you for joining us. Good morning. We have Professor Wajakoya, who is an immigration law expert. Thank you for joining us, sir. Last but not least, we have Senator Samson Cherargei, Senator for Nandi County. Welcome, gentlemen. And reminder of the question this morning, we're asking whether the Building Bridges initiative, in your opinion, may last until 2022, or has the war of words that has begun in certain quarters possibly jeopardizing that particular Building Bridges initiative? And allow me to just look at some of the headlines that we have this morning. And the Star has captured this by saying, handshake at risk as Raila Ruto crash. That's the headline on the Star. We have the Standard saying, Raila MPs, why Ruto evokes fear. And last but not least, we have on the Daily Nation, tempers flare as Raila allies hammer Ruto. So it looks like it's war, if the dailies are anything to go by. But for us to just get a full scope of possibly where this has come from, we had the Deputy President attending the homecoming ceremony for Honorable Samson Cherargei, Senator for Nandi County, and there's some statements that were made there that possibly brought about this uproar. But let's listen into what the Deputy President had to say before we continue.
Biggest threat to our democracy, our progress, and our stability is people who have questionable democratic credentials and dictators who participate in elections, yet they cannot accept the outcome of any election.
Hakuna mambo ya katiba saizi, mulituchagua twende kazini.
All right, and that is what has evoked quite a lot of reaction. So let me start with you, Honorable Cherargei, because you were present. It was your homecoming ceremony attended by the Deputy President. Do you find like these statements were necessary? He may not have mentioned who exactly was referring to, but it is widely thought he may have been referring to Raila.
Thank you very much for having me today in the morning. And I want to say, this was a response to what Raila Odinga has been saying in his tour of Europe and America over the issues pertaining the handshake. Because as you rightly know, this handshake issue has mutated daily. We're having different stories since it was, the handshaking was done. And therefore it was important because the reason the Deputy President was raising that is because it seems the NASA leader did not do handshake in good faith. He did it in bad faith, and therefore it was necessary that, you know, you cannot come for handshake, then you go abroad and start bashing and making wild allegations, and yet the Jubilee government was validly elected. The legitimacy it has was given by even the Supreme Court after the first nullification, the second nullification.
What wild allegations would you be referring to that?
By saying that the elections were rigged. He said that the only elections that has been won is 202. Why is it that when you are part of the winning team, the elections is fair and credible, but when you lose, elections is unfair, not credible?
But
that was the big question.
But we are all privy, and we know that there were questions raised around the elections. We do know that the elections were nullified at some point, and then the second election, the opposition decided to stay away. So really, we cannot say they're wild allegations. We do know that there were issues that were raised around that.
But you look at the history, apart even from 2017 A and B general elections, the validation, and I think we should respect the courts of law, because the Supreme Court, the people went to court to try and challenge the second presidential election after the first nullification, and they agreed and said that His Excellency the President and the Deputy was validly elected. And you know, he has insisted from way back in 1992, except 202, But all other general elections that have been done in Kenya have not been fair or credible simply because he has lost. And that is why we are saying it's a threat to democracy. Because when you go to democracy, let the majority have their way, but minority have their say. But we also have to look at the history of this person who is looking at it. Because if you don't respect the principles of democracy, then you can, and of course we are aware, but I have seen my colleagues yesterday read a statement, and it is very interesting because it's on the ODM legislators who did that, is that this issue of fairness or issue of democracy must be settled, because if you look at Raila Odinga, he has always been using violence and intimidation to get what he wants. Even before the handshake, he had all the country at ransom so that he could get what he wants. Okay. And therefore we have said, finally we have said, we support the handshake when it was meant for peace, unity and development. It was not meant to lay groundwork for 2022. It was not meant for referendum. And therefore, this handshake has been mutating, courtesy of Raila Odinga. We don't know what he will say tomorrow. Okay.
Let me come to you, Honorable Kirwa. Do you feel like we are possibly taking the country back to where we were in terms of having a very volatile political environment, whereas the handshake had somewhat, in the feeling of many Kenyans, calmed down things?
Well, I think the situation is what we anticipated at the beginning, because the other three leaders of NASA were not initially involved, and even the Deputy President was not initially involved. It was an initiative between the two gentlemen, the President and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And many of them, even the tweet from the Deputy President, we read, many of us who have the capacity to analyze issues, that he was doing it because he wanted to look smart. But the truth of the matter is that he has not supported the initiative, and Raila has played into his hands by making those statements that he made in London, in the sense that he just wants to kill this initiative of ensuring that the country is a level playing ground come 2022. Mm-hmm. The second issue that we need to look at is that the handshake itself is supposed to lay two things. One is genuine national reconciliation, which every leader should support. Two, to have reforms that make it possible for the winner to be accepted across the board. And therefore, if we run away from those two things, we are effectively saying we do not want to rid the confusion of the political landscape. And this is something that is unique, because the President and his deputy are expected after the Hague issue for them to come back and reconcile the two communities, the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin. Nothing has been done, and it is a time bomb that we are just holding, possibly to emasculate the thinking of certain communities when they come to vote in 2022. These are some of the fears that we have, and they are genuine fears. And I would really expect that we, the people of Kenya, must rise above some of these tussles between former Prime Minister and the Deputy President.
All right, Prof, let me come to you. And you're one who possibly has looked at international relations, and reading from the script of Raila's speech as he was, going back to the electoral malpractices, he brought about, obviously, things that many would have buried. However, if we do not deal with these things now, we are likely to have the same scenario, or even worse, in 2022. Isn't it time that we had our politicians sit down and genuinely put the problems on the table and look for a resolve? Are we really looking for a resolve?
First of all, I'm very grateful to sit among two great men, and also to meet Honorable Kirwa for the first time. My admiration to him goes way back when I was in high school, when he became a young member of parliament, and he excelled. And I do not know why people of this kind of magnitude are not in government. And I'm equally very elevated to sit with a young man who might have been born when people are struggling for independence in this country, and especially for multipartyism. But to drive the point home, I'm sick and sad of this politics of homecoming. These are mediocre politics which should be banned and outlawed because they breed some kind of lunacy, and let me use very strong words, hypocrisy and tribalism. And when you look at the people agitating around their master, making a lot of noises, people like Murkomen, people like Duale, the likes of people who are taking this country back to where it was.
Are you also maybe by default referring to Samson?
No, I'm not. I'm just congratulating.
Because it was his homecoming.
Yes. Yeah, yes. Let me just tell it to him. But he actually may not be, because he's not the first one to go into this politics of homecoming and blood draining of cattle and environmental degradation. Mr. Senator, or Honorable Senator, these politics of homecoming are primitive, because what results out of that is economic mismanagement of people's money, taxpayers' money, time, wastage of people's whatever. If you find the Deputy President speaking, he's a bitter man from his expression and body language. And I don't know whether he was born to speak like that. I remember when he invited me to his home in Sugoi, when we had dinner with him, he didn't speak like this. Why is he so much rhetoric? Why is he using that kind of pain that he even goes ahead and says that, politics of mismanagement, politics of corruption, but surely Ruto should not actually be uttering those kind of words that he has uttered, because his position is suspect and we know his history. I'm not attacking him, but I'm telling him the truth, and I'm ready to die. What we should do in this country is to emulate the president, and what the president said at that particular time. He came up with the conciliatory tone. He said, let us reconcile this country. Let us look at where we have gone wrong. I am sorry to you Kenyans. Now you find mediocre politics from politicians from both sides, Ruto's side and Raila's side, coming up to fight. Come on, let's give this country a break. Let's look at what people like the likes of Miguna are fighting for, and let's carry this country forward instead of going to primitive ideologies of thinking of being a president. We can have him to be the best president in this country. It doesn't necessarily have to be Ruto. It doesn't necessarily have to be Uhuru. Somebody else can. All right. If these people fight.
And just to let you know that we do have the phone lines open. If you'd like to call in and give your comments or possibly a question to the panel, you're welcome to do so. We'll also be looking at your tweets as we carry on. The hashtag, remember, is Morning Express KTN. Let me come to you, Honorable Senator Cherargei. And what would you say to those critics who are saying that the positioning and the posturing that the Deputy President has taken is very combative, and one that is literally looking at 2022, regardless of the four-pillar agenda that the President would like to implement, and Jubilee by extension, between now and 2022? Why are we talking 2022 politics now when we have such a huge development agenda to focus on?
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Deputy President for attending my homecoming, and it is good always. It was a church service, it was Thanksgiving. It's good to thank God for giving us this leadership position, because even the Bible says leadership comes from God. Number two, I want to say some of us were opposed to handshake in the direction that it has taken. Because I want to rightly agree with you. When you had the President speaking in State House last week, he said this country do not have time to discuss issues of changing the constitution or going for a referendum, because the main key agenda for now is the four pillars. And that is what is the driving agenda of the President and the legacy, and that is the springboard. The success is the springboard of His Excellency, the Deputy President in 2022. I want to agree that the Deputy President is not being combative. He's just being assertive. And therefore, in all these instances, the issue is we have said, in as much as we are discussing 2022, it is not a crime to do so. We are discussing the future of this country. And therefore, as leadership, it has not, our development agenda has not stalled or stopped simply because we are discussing 2022. And we don't know why is it offense for the rest of the people who are of other political beliefs or affiliation to be concerned with what Jubilee is discussing. Because in as much as we are aware, our plan is 20-year plan. 10 years for Uhuru Kenyatta, 10 years for His Excellency the Deputy President. And he's the Deputy Party Leader of Jubilee, is our automatic presidential candidate in 2022. And that is why some of us have said if the Big Four agenda will not be fully implemented by 2022, then His Excellency the Deputy President will ensure that it is completed. And I want to say this. Because the people who are making a lot of noise about democracy is they have always held this country at ransom. And you look at the history from 1982, when coup was done, in all these instances, and what is it that, you know, when you say you are a leader, apart from talking about democracy, you should be telling us, while I was in government, what did you do? Okay. Because I've seen the statement that the ODM MP said. Because if you say Raila himself as a leader has served in both Moi and Kibaki government, and yet yesterday they were saying Luo Nyanza has been somehow, they were inferring that Luo Nyanza has been neglected for a very long time. But the big question is, what has this person who has served both in Kibaki and Moi government, and now he wants to negotiate a power sharing deal, and will not be shocked when he says from tomorrow.
All right, I know that the Deputy President, and from what you're saying, you are not for the referendum, but do you agree that we have issues with the electoral practice that we have in Kenya, that it needs to be sorted out?
I said, and of course, there are many challenges that are facing the issues of...
So do we need to sort it out?
No, we don't. In fact, we don't need to amend the law. As they, you know, we have looked at legal framework of electoral process in this country.
So are you saying
we don't need
okay?
legislative, but what we need is to ensure that the structures are in place, to ensure that we have proper structures that will ensure we protect credibility and the process of elections.
All right.
It is not about going to amending the constitution. It is not about creating more laws, because as a legislature, as a parliament, we have ensured that the necessary electoral laws are in place to guard and ensure that we have free, fair, and credible elections according to the constitution.
What is your suggestion in terms of a solution for some of those issues that had been raised, which I think we all admit we have a problem in Kenya? Electoral malpractice, we have corruption. Right now we have the NYS scandal that is on the fore. Inclusivity. What is your proposed solution to those issues?
You know, under Article 10 of the Constitution on national values and principles of good governance, the issue of inclusivity, the issues of gender balance, the issues of regional balance has been captured. The issue is that we should have a goodwill, because when you talk about electoral process, and I think now that is the point now, we need to know what is the technical report that will come up with a 14-member team of handshake. I think that those are some of the serious issues that we'd want to listen in, like ensuring that we protect the reliability of elections, that we ensure how we fight corruption, to ensure that we bring inclusivity, to ensure we bring issues of regional balance, issues of diversity into one agenda, and therefore I think those are now serious issues. But when you talk about creating job opportunities for some people by going for a referendum, then we are heading in the wrong direction.
Professor Wajakoya, I saw you shaking your head I don't know, I guess you're disagreeing with what Senator has to say. But before I bring you in, let's just listen into what some of the ODM legislators had to say in response to Ruto's words over the weekend.
What stands between Mr. Ruto and the presidency is not His Excellency Raila Odinga, it is Ruto's character, his bad record in office, and the perceptions about him by the general public. Ruto comes out as an angry and bitter man looking for revenge. Kenyans have a problem trusting their country and their children with such a bitter and seemingly vengeful man.
Kenyans are aware of these facts. They fear Ruto, and their fear, not Raila Odinga or the handshake, is standing in his way to the presidency.
Ruto has openly threatened the family of President Daniel Arap Moi if the family does not give him political support. He is holding that family hostage.
Some very strong accusations there, Prof.
Who are speaking and expressing their views. And I hope that none of them will be murdered very soon. Because those are very serious statements. And we as Kenyans, we should not live into a lie. I've lived long enough in the UK and the US. I participated in politics in those countries. I ran as a member of parliament for Tottenham, though I was not cleared at primary level. And we have looked at politics from an international dimension. When we come into this country, we look at it in stages. What happened to where, and who was where at what time. Some of us, not me inclusive, not member of parliament, not even the senator, were not even there when people were being jailed in this country. If we say that some mediocres are coming in after being given money to fly into Nyanza and Western Province to give that money, to be seen to be developing those places, from money that has has come from some kind of a thief putting his hand in the till. And then you come and tell people here that what has Raila done for the last 20 or 40 years? You are a fool. Raila has been in jail. Raila has fought for this country. And Uhuru has come to realize that this man has fought for the country. Whereas some of us have been looting this country left, right, and center. Why can't you come up and tell the nation that I have looted land, I've looted everything? You come in here to tell us what?
So, Prof,
Sorry. What I'm
you...
trying to say is, I'm not referring to anybody. I'm just speaking because I'm responding to what my honorable member of parliament in the Senate has said here. Look at yourself and look into your age group and look at where you were when people are being detained in this country, instead of coming here to tell us, now what has he done? This is politics of rhetoric.
Now, do you agree with what the ODM legislators say, that the Deputy President is holding the country hostage?
Absolutely.
In what way?
Look at what is happening in Rift Valley. Look at the likes of Keter. Look at those who are opposed to him. Where are they? They lost their seats. They have been, and somebody is coming to use a language to tell us here that, oh, they lost. Come on, let's call a spade a spade. Ruto is the only person who can save this country from this mediocre monarchies. But if he's misusing his talent by doing what he's doing today, then we are losing it.
Okay, Senator, you wanted to say something.
You know, it is very interesting because my good professor is alleging that Ruto controls judiciary. That the fact that some of the members of parliament coincidentally lost their seats through a legal process. Ruto is not God to determine who wins or loses. It was a judicial process, and therefore, with all due respect, it is very unfortunate to make such statement in the national television like this. No one has held the former President Moi family hostage. We have never. Deputy President has never. It was just a coincidence the other day that when he wanted to go and say hi to Mzee and find out how he's recovering from knee surgery, then no one has held hostage. And we have said as a community, and as a country, Ruto has built the necessary friendship, brotherhood, and connection across the country. The only reason they fear Ruto is because we know our main opponent in 2022, and that is Raila Odinga. And that is why these people, they cannot pinpoint. They are just, the country is afraid of William Ruto. Why?
Okay, Prof, I'll bring you in, but let me hear from Honorable Kirwa. And, sir, do you agree that he's holding the country hostage? And why do we allow our leaders to hold us hostage, if at all it is true? Remember, just before the handshake, it was felt or thought that it was Uhuru and Raila holding the country hostage.
Well, first of all, I think we are missing one point. The point that I want us to bring is that when it comes to the issue of referendum and the constitutional reforms, people confuse the fact that a number of things were envisaged even as we launched the 2010 Constitution, that a certain implementation would be done in phases, and upon taking cognizance of the fact that there are certain flaws that may exist in the current Constitution, we are going to do an audit of the Constitution. So we seem to have lost that, and we are looking at Raila and Uhuru and the handshake. And that is where we really go wrong. The other issue is that there's been something very elusive since independence, the issue of national cohesion. Even if Ruto wanted to be president 2022, he needs a country that is cohesive. The way we are now, we are polarized. 50% of Kenyans believe in one dimension and the other half believe in the other. And therefore, it is not going to be easy for anybody to reconcile the country other than the two gentlemen, President Uhuru Kenyatta and Prime Minister Raila, because the two hold the equation as it is today. When it comes to Ruto, you know, I've said before, is a perfect game changer in terms of trying to give a dog a bad name and hang it. Now he's giving a bad name to Raila. He forgets that if there were any rejection of election results in 2007, he was part and parcel of that. And I think Senator Gerard Gay can remember that. He was part of the ODM that rejected the PNU results. So you cannot say Raila has been rejecting results. If results have not been fair, Raila of necessity is a Kenyan. And is supposed to reject or accept depending on what happens. I personally had a sitting with Raila after the handshake, And he said, Kirwa, look here. I've won 2 elections, and they have been taken away from me. I don't want any Kenyan running in future to win and victory to be taken away from him. That's why I'm willing to deal with President Uhuru Kenyatta. We level the playing ground so that any Kenyan who wins the next election,
it's free and fair.
Is free and fair and credible for him to be able to do the
All right,
the work.
and I want to take a few phone calls, and let's start with James Wafula, who's calling from Kakamega. Good morning, James. I'll request that you keep your comment or question as brief as possible. James from Kakamega, to your question or comment.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
You know, Raila has become a beggar. Na hii mambo ya kutembea kila mahali akilia, we are very, very much disappointed. Sisi hatukutaka hiyo mambo ya handshake. The Jubilee government was not going to last for 5 years. Raila angerudi nyumbani, akae ngumu. Hiyo mambo ya kutuambia ati anaenda kuongea na Uhuru huko, vijana ni wakora. Na hawezi kubaliana na mtu, wanakuambia hii saa hizi, kesho wamegeuka wanakuambia kitu kingine tofauti. So yeye akule ngumu yake, ajue wale vijana hawatakudu yoyote ya kusaidiana na yeye.
Hi, Asante. We'll take the next call from Jasper Wafula in Mombasa.
Yes, hello, morning.
Morning to you.
Yeah, nilikuwa nachangia tu kuhusu Deputy President. Yeah, according to Raila, ni mtu anajaribu kuleta tu disturb.
Kuleta?
Hajaelewana bado na hiyo mambo ya handshake. According handshake yake bado hajaelewana, bado anarudi tena akianza kusumbua Deputy Ruto. Because anajaribu kumharibia 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Asante sana. Let me come to you, Prof. And we don't have much time, so we'll need to maybe, keep it as compact as possible. What do you see as the way forward? Here we have 2022 is definitely something that we cannot ignore, especially from the political front. Politicians will be politicians and they'll continue regardless. However, we have a Kenya that is suffering. We have a Kenya that has a potential to blow up if things are not contained. What is your possible advice on the way forward?
Kenyans should be very careful when they're electing their leaders in 2022. Ruto had the best opportunity and the chance of getting out of this monarchies kind of system of the Mois, the Kenyattas, and the Odingas. But he's spoiling this chance by being very rhetoric, by bringing in mediocre people, and by being very autocratic. Talking as a dictator shows us that if you have this man as a president, unless he changes between now and 2022 to get people to embrace him, then we shall have a benevolent and very serious dictator who will never want to leave power, who will be like Nkurunziza, changing the constitution so that he can be a president forever. That's the danger that we look into. But however, if he can change, and I've said this many times on the media, if he can be the humble man who grew up selling chicken and being a choir boy, preaching Christ before he came in to take over from Chesire, then probably. But as the way things are right now, this country is looking into what we shall never come out of. And let me warn the Mount Kenya community, because those are the people who have the money, the businesses, to be very careful as to who they will vote for. Otherwise, they will live to regret this day that I'm speaking.
All right. Senator Cherargei, your closing comments and the way forward.
Thank you very much. I think all these issues, the success, and the reason some of us support William Ruto for presidency is not because he comes from my backyard. It is because he is the future of this country. And I agree with Professor, I have a lot of tremendous respect because I've read a lot about him, is that is our sure bet of breaking the dynasties and monarchies in this country. And he has a proven track record from the way back when he was a member of parliament, when he was the Minister of Agriculture, when he was the Deputy President, to his extent the President, and also serving the second term as Deputy President. And his track record has been trusted because he has given hope. He has ensured that the development agenda of this country has been driven forward. And therefore, on our part, we don't support him because of being William Ruto. We support him because of what he has done for this country and what he can do for this country going forward. And I think this is the right time, and I want to assure Professor Jakoya that Ruto will not push for referendum when he becomes the president, because his position is known. He was the one who opposed this constitution when others were saying yes. But now this constitution, let it allow to work. We are not going to go for referendum, I can assure you him anytime. And therefore, as leadership, we should come together. And I have seen this handshake is that it should go, let us wait for the technical report from the handshake committee. Then from there, we can now discuss and see the way forward of this country. But it should not be, and I can tell you finally, it should not be a laying ground for anybody to run for 2020. It is not about referendum. It is not about power sharing deal. It is about the future of this country. And therefore, I want to tell my colleagues from ODM that they should not fear Ruto. Ruto is a very humble man, as you heard Professor said. He's a Christian, and he's a very generous gentleman.
All right.
To ensure this of this country.
You certainly have given a very, glowing tributes to your leader. But Honorable Kirwa, your closing comments.
Well, my closing comments are as follows. One, let us see beyond the handshake. Let's see beyond Ruto, because after all, he's a human being. And he may be as humble as Gerard Gay would want to say, but what we are reading is a lot of arrogance, a lot of assumption that he's already the president. And he should realize that of the 14 vice presidents that we have had, it's only one who succeeded his president directly. Kibaki succeeded after losing several elections. So Ruto should brace for a situation where he can easily be the leader of official opposition. And that's why I've been saying, let us have dignified opposition for my brother William Ruto.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll have to wind up right there because of time. That is Honorable Kipruto Arab Kibra, the Deputy Party Leader for ANC, Senator Samson Cherargei, Nandi County, and last but not least, Professor Wajakoya, who's an immigration law expert. And that's where we wind up the political point this morning. We are going to take a short break, but do stay with us right here on Morning Express. Today's Tuesday. We'll be looking at your money in just a bit.